Welcome to Roof It Up. This is a podcast about innovators, entrepreneurs, business leaders, and their stories about the course they took by Saenz Global.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Roof It Up. Today, I am legitimately stoked. You know those people that you really look up to in the industry that you're like, they're so amazing. And you're just like, oh my gosh. And then they say yes to me on your podcast and you kind of freak out a little bit. Well, this is today's guest, Jen Silver. She is literally amazing. If you are listening to this and you're obviously in the roofing industry, even if you're not, literally Jen she's a mastermind. Like, she's incredible. She is a phenomenal leader, but she's a woman of just such, just transparency. Like, you want to be her, you know? I know me as a business owner, I'm like, she's incredible. Like, she's so inspiring. So really excited to have you on the show today, Jen. Jen, I would just love for you to kind of kick off and share with us a little bit like who you are and a little bit about your story so everyone can hear a little bit more about you. So welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. And thank you for all of those kind words. I think that we face different things in life, trials, tribulations, and I like to choose the hard way a lot of times. And I did more often when I was younger because, I thought I knew best. And ultimately, my path went a lot of different ways for a while. But I think the biggest thing that it's done for me is allowed me to have the ability to have compassion for everyone. In all different walks of life, in all different phases of life. And I'm really grateful for that because I do think that people have the ability to feel that when they talk to me, that I've probably been there and done that, and I don't judge, and you can be authentic, and I might have some, good tips, or I might not, but at least I give people, I think, a safe space to just be them. Okay, so a little bit about me. I am a single mom. I live in Utah. I am going to be a grandma in February, which completely freaks me out because I don't think I'm old enough to be a grandma, even though
if you're watching this if you're watching this live, you'll see Jen and she's like freaking hot. Like, look at her. If you're watching this video, you're like, no way you're about to be a grandma, but literally the woman is fire. She's not hot only on screen. She literally in real life is gorgeous. So yeah, you're like the hottest grandma I think that's ever existed.
Well, I appreciate that. I think that, with women, it's interesting. You can go one of two ways, right? As you grow older, you can gain more confidence and feel more comfortable in your skin and realize that, I'm never going to be a size 0 or a teeny tiny. It's not the way my body's shaped. I like who I am. And I think that starts to radiate as we get older into beauty. Whereas when we're younger, I think beauty is different. What we evaluate beauty on is different. And I am definitely the most comfortable in my skin than I've ever been now. So I appreciate you recognizing that.
No, for sure.
Being a grandma's going to be a little bit crazy. I am excited about the baby because, who doesn't love babies? And newborns smell so amazing. Have you ever noticed that?
So good. My daughter's 2 when she was born. I was like, oh my gosh, obsessed. They smell so good.
You just want to smell them. And I read once that it's an actual pheromone hormone that babies put off so that people bond with them. Like, it's actually, it is intended to psychologically make you fall in love with them, the smell that they have.
So it's a thing. It's literally not our mind.
No, it's literally a thing. And it apparently dates back to caveman times, when babies needed to be bonded with and needed protection from survival. And so they had this smell, I guess, that makes them just irresistible. So I am excited about that part.
Love it.
I own a roofing company and I love doing that. Definitely not the way I thought my life was going to go. Honestly, I don't know if I had a plan. I graduated from high school with, a 396 and a 1360 on my SATs and had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up and couldn't justify just going to college to earn a degree. And so I went into restaurants. I worked my way up in restaurants. I was a manager at 21, GM by 24, district manager at 27. And then I married the military and moved to Japan.
Wow.
I love other cultures and understanding other cultures. And the Japanese culture is very based on respect and honor. It's
Right.
very safe. And it was a wonderful place to have little kids. I didn't have to instill fear in them, like you do here. Like if they disappear at a Walmart, you're terrified too,
Right.
in Japan, they'd run around the store and it was safe. And it was nice to just kind of let them be kids.
That is mind blowing. Like that is definitely a country I want to visit. I was in Korea. I know Korea and Japan, they kind of have their fights, but definitely being in those countries is just like how honor, respect, like safety is like a thing. Like you can leave your laptop and come back in an hour and it's still there. It's like really, really different. Wow, that's amazing. Wow, incredible. Okay, Japan. So
And
you were in Japan.
Utah's similar. So transitioning from Japan to Utah was fairly easy. And I really appreciate the culture here in Utah as well, as far as safety goes. And, my kids can walk to the gas station and do things like that. And it's fun. And I'm not super paranoid. There's not a lot of places, I think, left in the country that you're able to still enjoy that part of life.
Right.
But after Japan, we got here and I shortly thereafter got divorced, and I hadn't worked in, I don't know, 6 or 7 years. And I didn't know anybody in Utah. And so I was trying to figure out what I wanted to be. And I had little kids that were going to be sick. And, as a woman, that's hard because when your kids start school and they get sick and you have to stay home with them. And, so I had concerns. And so I really wanted a flexible career, and outside sales made sense. And I knew that wouldn't be a challenge as far as selling goes, but it is scary when you're a single parent and this, the only income to have it be commission based. Right. And so I wanted a stable industry. And I chose construction. I just didn't really know anything about construction. Right. And I was like, well, how do I do this? So I went to work at the country club in Ogden, met all of the contractors because that's where they hang out, and ended up getting hired at SRS and started in roofing in the fall of 2017. So just a little over 5 years ago now. That's kind of how I got here. It's
oh my gosh,
a crazy story, but
and then now like you have a super successful like roofing company. And then how did that start? Like how did you start your own company?
So I worked for a roofing company in Salt Lake City, and we had grown when I started. We went in 2018 from 1.3 in July, and we finished that year at 4 million, which was my goal. I was the sales manager. In 2019, I was promoted, and I worked as the general manager in addition to the sales manager, and grew the company that year from 4 million to 7 million.
You're so badass.
Oh,
you're awesome.
I found out that summer that the owner had some challenges with his license from a qualifying standpoint. And the laws had changed since he had gotten his license. And so I went in and took the class, the 25-hour class, and passed the business law exam and became a qualifier or a licensed general contractor. And I went in, we applied to have me replace the qualifier and do all of the things that needed to be done. And unfortunately, just due to some legal complications, they ended up revoking his license. And I was like, when the Department of Professional Licensing called me, I'm like, what am I supposed to do? I have a team of 30 people and $750,000 in signed contracts, and you're going to give us 30 days. We're not, like, what are we supposed to do? He's like, well, you're a licensed general contractor. Start your own roofing company. And I was like, no. Like, that's really scary. Like, that takes the whole, like, commission sales thing to a different level.
Right.
And, I had a great team of people, and, they talked to me and they're like, Jen, you could totally do this. And I go, I have no capital, no money saved up. I mean, I lived in low income housing until the end of 2017. Now it's Utah, so it was like white privilege, low income housing. But still, I had nothing. And I had just gotten a $15,000 credit card. And so I was like, well, I guess if I can start a roofing company on a $15,000 credit card, then okay. And so that's what we did. And then COVID hit. So, we spent 2020 completing about, I don't know, 650,000 of the signed contracts that he had. We did contract transfers, and he had collected deposits, and he was going to retain some of the deposit, and the rest of it was going to go over to us. And I never robbed Peter to pay Paul. I paid cash for everything up front. I wanted to make sure that we were doing things the right way. In January of 21, we were supposed to collect the rest of the deposits that he had collected. And due to the fact that he was improperly licensed, in the state of Utah, if you're not properly licensed, a homeowner doesn't have to pay the contractor. What? And and so the insurance companies, he had an accounts receivables of close to $3 million, and they didn't pay it. And so he was not able to pay me the $150,000 that he owed me, which kind of really put us in a bind. And I thought we were done. And I'm, sitting around my kitchen table with my team, and like, we got $8,000 left in business checking. It's February. I have no idea how we're going to make it. I think we're done. We gave it a good run, and I had 5 guys and myself and another single mom. And then one of the guys stood up and said, "Jen, we've talked about it, and don't pay us. Don't, you 2 single moms take checks."
Wow.
And I just started crying.
I'm like about to cry. I literally have goosebumps right now, and I'm about to cry because that just shows like your incredible leadership, that your team is like you and the other, you and single mom, you take the checks but that just is because you're a great leader, Jen. That's incredible. Wow.
I learned a lot in 21. And, unfortunately, that team doesn't work here anymore, any of them. And it was really hard, but I know that they're all doing really great. And, they ultimately, when I went on the road the first time with John Dye, we underestimated what it was going to do to the business, from people going and looking at the website. I went from 78 organic impressions in August of 21 to 661 organic impressions on my website the first week of September. Wow. And they got busy, and I wasn't here to lead, and things got chaotic, and without, real leadership and somebody there to support them, when I got back, the second week of October, they were gone.
Wow.
And that was really hard. And a really good lesson for me as a leader. That you can't take that much time away without having the right things set up. And I thought I did, but I didn't have accountability. Once we made the decision to keep going, and the second round of PPP loans ended up coming in really quick. And so I never had to not pay anybody, but we all kind of divided and conquered, right? And I focused on branding and marketing, and with no money. And I was like, well, how do I brand, and how do I market, and how do I drive sales, and do all of these things? And I figured out some creative ways to generate business. But I also thought that if I reached out to people I didn't know, and they knew I owned a roofing company in Utah, maybe that would help us drive business. And so I sent out like 400 friend requests on March 2nd to strangers, and I only had 127 friends. I was not a big fan of social media, and I'm still not in a lot of ways. There's a lot of broken things about it. But I sent out all these friend requests, and I must have hit Facebook algorithms, and I just started getting like 100 to 200 friend requests a day. Started in the state with like people, and then it spread outside of the state, and then eventually it filtered into roofers somehow. And by July of 21, I had 5,000 friends and 1,500 followers. And I'm like, what happened? I don't even really understand. I don't know what's going on in my life.
That is wild.
And then I did a podcast with Armando Jaycox and John Dye, and they asked me what type of business I did. And I said, well, do 100% retail, but I think at that time we were at about a 40-60 split. I can't remember because it's been a while, but I just said, 40 or 50% of them are paid by insurance companies. And they were like, what? And I go, well, we don't negotiate or supplement or do any of that. We do retail all the way, and we finance our homeowners or offer them financing, and then we let them handle their insurance company. And they're like, and it works? And I was like, yeah, every time. And, it ended up being the start of, what John Dye said to me is you're the one that's going to, help reform the restoration industry. And I was like, no, I'm not the one. That's crazy. I'm a single mom in Utah. Like, there is no way it's me. That's funny. And it just, it just grew from there. And, I'm honored. It's been a challenge, for people to get that it really can be so simple when we worked so long and so hard. And, I've got contractors all over the country. I get messages all the time. They're like, this is great. You saved my business. Like, I actually have peace of mind. I've never felt like this before. And it's really life-changing.
Oh, that is amazing. So incredible to know, like, you were in Japan, then you came, moved to Utah, like then became a single mother. And then like how you just, I don't know, it's just incredible, the story, because it just shows like the journey, like you're now, in the industry, you're well known, and you're not, and you're well known for, I don't know, when I look at you, I'm like, she's just class. I like love how you are. Like, you uphold yourself with such class. You're so professional, but yet so approachable. And that's really hard to see, I feel like, in the industry. And so you just have so much respect from so many of us. And I'm like super proud of you. Like, thank you for just being a great representation of women in business, and, being able to lead as a mother and yet be able to lead people, and really you're changing people's lives. Like the messages that you get constantly, like, you helped my business stay alive, like you're impacting lives. And that started with you making a decision, right? To take the risk. Like you said, I had a $15,000 credit card, like, let's start it. It's like you're taking these risks that now when you kind of look back, it's like changing so many people's lives. And I'm super excited because I know your journey is still, you have so much greatness even ahead. But I'm super excited for you. And I don't know, just, I'm so proud of you. I know I like, barely know each other, but I'm like super, super proud to know you.
It means a lot coming from other women, right?
Yeah.
I recently spoke at Grace and Grind in Dallas, and I had made this awesome PowerPoint about like the 7 challenges women face in business, and I was super excited. And I got there, and that voice in my head, I think there's 3 voices. The one that I call God, people might call it intuition, the universe, my gut feelings, whatever you want to call that, told me that wasn't what I was going to speak on.
Wow.
And I had a plane crash into my house in January. I was renting a home with my ex-fiance at the time, and he would bring his kids up on the weekends, and we were trying to see if we could blend families. And I was working out of the house that day, and I have a townhouse, and my kids would walk to my townhouse after school. I had a friend staying there, and part of the deal of him being there was that the kids could still walk over. Well, it was a super busy day. I had deadlines and like specific things that I needed to get into the Attorney General. And all of a sudden at 1:30, God, that voice, whatever, starts telling me to go get my kids. And I'm like, no, have you looked at my day? Like, I go get my kids, they're going to start fighting. Like, I'm not going to get anything done. Like, I can't go get my kids. And it was relentless, nonstop from 1:30 to 2:30. Jen, go get your kids, go get your kids, go get your kids. I got nothing done.
Yeah. So
I finally, at 2:30, I slammed my hands down. I went and picked up my kids, and, we get in the car and we're driving out of the townhouse neighborhood, and I'm looking at my clock, and it's 2:57. And I'm like, okay, but by the time I get home, it'll be like 3:10. I can do this. I got to start dinner at this time. Maybe I'll do this, and I'm trying to plan it all to see how much that's left in my calendar I can actually get done. So I bribe my kids with dessert, just like all good parents do with good behavior.
100%.
And I sit down and I start working, and about 3:20, my phone rings, and it's my neighbor at my townhouse, and she never calls me. And so I answered, and she's hysterical, just completely frantic. And she's like, Jen, where are your kids? Where are your kids? And I go, they're with me. She goes, no, I just saw them, Jen. Where are your kids? And I go, no, Jesse, I promise they are with me. And she goes, turn on the TV. A plane just crashed into your house.
Oh my gosh.
And I go, what? And she's like,
this is like a movie.
Yeah, my life is kind of like that. Like, I am going to write a book because that is only one story of many stories. But I turned on the TV, and sure enough, there was my house or my townhouse, and the plane came in behind my townhouse, and his wing broke off in the building across the street from me, and he hit and blew up right behind my building and scorched the side of my building. And my kids were playing about somewhere between 50 and 100 yards from where he blew up.
Wow.
And I think to myself, I don't know that they would have been physically harmed. I honestly have no idea. But I know the amount of emotional trauma that
100%.
they would be facing for the rest of their lives would be something that I don't know if I could have ever made better for them, or helped them cope with. And I just, I fell to my knees, and I promised I would be obedient, and I would listen to that voice, because I had ignored that voice so much in life. And I think we all do. We get that gut feeling or that intuition, and if we don't completely understand it, we don't do it.
Right.
And I think sometimes it's not meant to be understood. And I have found that when I do those things and I just take action, and blind obedience is way harder than blind faith.
100%.
Because 100%. It requires you to take action. And, when I committed to that day, I have been my word to that. And so fast forward back to the Grace and Grind retreat.
Yes.
I'm standing in that room, and I'm looking around, and that voice is saying, no, you know what you're going to talk about. You're not talking about what you're thinking. And I'm like, oh God, please, not here. Like, don't do this to me right now. Like, I can't do this. And I get up on stage, and I start, and I'm like, had this great presentation. You guys can have a copy of it. But, once I got here, God, your intuition, the universe told me I was going to talk about something else. Yeah. And people are like, what is going on? And so I briefly, I tell the plane crash story and why I am obedient. And then I went through the 7 challenges women face in business. And I said, but there's one challenge that's not on here that I think is the number 1 challenge women face in business. And it's other women. Wow. And the whole room was silent. It's a room of women. Right. And I realized that we have a tendency to publicly support each other, but privately not. And we can't be vulnerable and authentic in a room of women because we worry so much about judgment and who is going to go back and talk about us, or who's going to tell somebody else. And, I went through all of those things, standing up on stage in this room full of women, and, how, judgment is a reflection of our insecurities and our incompleteness, and not a reflection of the person that you're judging. Yes. And it just shows how broken we are. And, it ended up being probably one of the most powerful talks that I think that I've ever done on stage. And I got vulnerable and granular with people, and I had tons of women reach out and tell me how much that meant to them, and that finally somebody said it, and hopefully we can move forward. But man, I tell you, the standing up there and being in front of a group of women was way scarier to me than ever speaking in front of men.
Yeah.
And so I just really appreciate, your words and what you said, because I think that we need more crown straightening women, as I like to tell them or call them, right? Than decrowning women. Because this isn't a scarcity world. We all are beautiful. We all have different things to contribute. And if we could recognize that and support that in each other and build each other up, I think we'd be a lot farther along in life in general than we currently are.
Yeah, I think you are so on point. It's just so funny, as we say, like I love hearing your inner voice, God. And for me, I'm totally believe in God. And so I definitely think those moments that God speaks to us, right? And so many times we don't want to listen. And like you kind of said, blind obedience is a real thing. And sometimes things don't make sense. Like that day, picking up your kids when it did not make any logical sense to pick them up, but you're like, I just can't not listen. I need to go get it. And it's just that is, I really believe how God works. He sees what's coming, right? And he loves us. And so he's telling us things that we're not seeing. And so having to take action. And so that day that you're standing in front of these women that you had prepared everything, he knows other women needed to hear that because they're broken within their soul. They feel so alone, right? So many times I feel like women feel so alone that you have to put up this front that you have it all together, and women just bicker at one another, but we have to unite and lift one another up because it is such a broken world, right? And it's just just so broken. And I feel like what you said, 100%, just being able to, I think the journey of leadership is really just, hey, I'm going to fall. Watch me fall, but watch me get up and come along with me, right? And it's we're all going to fall. We're all going to have hard times, but I'm not perfect, but come alongside me and let's do this together. And let's get to our journey together and lift one another up. And such a powerful word. And I think you're 100% right. Us, more women really need to realize we're not against each other, really for each other. And just being able to be authentic and transparent about it is really is a sounding voice. And, you're not alone. You're not alone.
But I think we feel alone. Even women that have, a large group of girlfriends, one of the things that I do not have a lot of girlfriends. And I struggle because oftentimes when you get together with women, all they want to do is talk about somebody else. Right. I don't do that.
Yeah.
And if I talk about somebody else, it's things that I would say if they were sitting there. Right. Right. If I can't say it with them sitting there, then it shouldn't be coming out of my mouth.
Absolutely.
If somebody is talking about somebody else, then they're going to talk about you when you're not there, and you're not any different than the person that they're talking about, even if you somehow feel that you are. And it breaks my heart because, we could do so much more if we were more united and supportive of each other. But you look at men, and they have all these cool weekends where they move logs and shit and hoorah, and they come out and they're all best friends. And there isn't stuff like that for women.
No.
Because we wouldn't do it. We wouldn't go and create community instantly because we're so guarded and so untrusting. And that's a huge thing that we're missing out on when we have the ability to create family and we just choose not to out of fear. And so hopefully, maybe sometime I'll make a difference in that side of the world too. And, start to show women, hey, not perfect. And I'm okay with that. And you can judge me if you want, but that's probably because there's something in your life that you're not complete with. And
Yeah.
I'm happy to help you find that. If you want to be honest with me, I can probably help you figure it out. But
Yeah.
I'm not going to be that type of a woman. I will continue to help and support. So
I totally think that is going to be like the next thing coming up ahead, hopefully, like where you're like, all right, we are going to have a log contest. Like we are like women, let's unite. And I would totally join. So if you launch that, let me know. I will be the first one to sign up along with some of my team members for sure. Cause yeah, I think we're missing out and there's so many greatness about, really unifying as a team of women. Making an impact. So I love it. Jen, I'm not even kidding, but this is definitely one of my favorite podcasts so far. I'm not even kidding. I'm like, I love it. But we're going to wrap up. And I just wanted to, give you kind of some time to like, for people to connect. If you're listening to this and you haven't really heard of, or like, hey, I want to connect more with Jen Silver, or if you're in your area and you want to connect, like, hey, have our team work with you, whatever, like how can people get a hold of you? Where can they reach you? All that good stuff. Let them know.
Probably the best place to go is to my personal website if you want to connect with me, which is jensilver.co. And,
Nice.
All of the classes and, things that I'm doing, we're getting updated. I'm doing some business finance classes right now. I did one yesterday and the day before. And it was awesome, teaching business owners, how to understand their books and budget and things like that. I've got another one in December and then another one in January. And then as far as the roofing company goes, you can, reach out to me on the website there, which is just roofingutah.com. So
Awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to give your listeners that information. And I also very much enjoyed this. We'll have to do it again sometime down the road.
Like 100%. And I am going to, if you're listening as well, and you didn't have time to write everything down, if you're you just go to the bottom of this podcast or wherever you're listening to, and we will put all that information there. So you can quickly select on the link that goes directly to Jen's account so that you can get a hold of her. But Jen, thank you so much. I literally can't thank you enough. You've been one of my favorite people on our podcast, and we really, really admire you so much. Thanks for being on. Bye.